Every episode of Respect the Dead comes with an implicit content warning, but at the start of this episode, I just want to give an additional content warning for frank discussions of physical and sexual abuse, including systemic instances of child sex abuse. Graphic descriptions of rape and sexual acts will be avoided, but child sex abuse is central to today's story. So please take care of yourself. Virginia Roberts' childhood was unhappy and violent. Shortly after relocating to Florida when Virginia was 7, a family friend began regularly molesting her. By her early teens, she was a frequent runaway, cycling through stretches in and out of foster care and sleeping on the street, where she found, quote, hunger, pain, and more abuse. At the age of 14, while homeless, she was offered an escape from the streets under the auspices of a wealthy older man, 65-year-old Ron Eppinger, a sex trafficker who imprisoned her in an apartment and sold her to pedophiles for months. In 2000, Eppinger was indicted for sex trafficking, and Virginia returned home, desperate to rebuild her life. She was only 16. Her father, who was a maintenance man at Donald Trump's Mar-a-Lago resort, got her a job as a locker room attendant there. It was while working in the locker room at Mar-a-Lago that Virginia met an elegant British socialite. The socialite immediately took an interest in Virginia, who expressed a desire to become a massage therapist. The socialite actually knew a man who was very enthusiastic about the art of massage, a very wealthy and influential man who could help Virginia, maybe even pay for her training at the best schools for massage therapists. She arranged for Virginia to meet this man for an interview that would take place in his multi-million-dollar Palm Beach home. Elated, Virginia ran to her father. "You're not going to believe it, Dad." Virginia Roberts' childhood had been unhappy and violent, but after 16 years of abuse and pain, her future was finally looking up thanks to her new job and a pair of new benefactors: British socialite Ghislaine Maxwell and her boyfriend, American financier Jeffrey Epstein. Welcome back to Respect the Dead, the podcast where we don't.
I don't like this episode.
It's yeah, so it's gonna be a bummer today. It's gonna be a
Well,
real
anyways,
bad
that's
one.
the worst that'll happen.
Yeah, it's all uphill from here.
Sorry, what was that? I'm assuming now woman's name?
Ghislaine Maxwell?
No, sorry,
Ghislaine.
the one that started as a
Oh,
child at the beginning.
Virginia Roberts. And
Virginia Roberts.
now we're going to talk about her a little bit more later, but now she goes by Virginia Giuffre because she's gotten married.
Well, so it's just a better name.
Virginia Giuffre?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like a very cool name. I
Right?
mean, Virginia Roberts is fine. Like Virginia Roberts actually does just kind of sound like the heroine of like a YA novel. But Virginia Giuffre, I mean,
Yeah,
she is a
she's
badass lady and she sounds like a badass lady.
yeah. Yeah, it went from, like, YA novel heroine to, like, "Oh, you have your own series on Lifetime. Maybe you
Yeah.
hunt ghosts."
Yeah, we'll talk about her a little bit more later. I'm a big fan of her. She's very cool. Okay, so we are in for like a bummer today,
Oh,
but
good.
there are a lot of heroes as well. And hopefully I'll get to highlight a couple of them over the course of the story so it's not like totally depressing, but
I feel like it's been a while since we had a Hoots Ruins Our Lives episode.
I know, I really took some time off, like, I think I got really burnt out with some of it. I was like, "I just can't do it." I mean, I kinda had it a little bit with this, but, like, when I was slogging through, like, Kissinger and Churchill, like, there were
Yeah.
times where I messaged you where I was like, "I'm done with my research, I'm, like, halfway through my script, and I gotta be honest with you, I haven't opened it in, like, 2 days because I can't."
No, and I whenever I do videos that are like that, like, not necessarily episodes, because I don't think I've done that many super bummers, but, like, you need the time away from it just to be
Mhm.
able to come back to it in order to present it.
Yeah,
Because if you're, like, still in it, you're gonna be crying the entire like, from
and also
start to end.
not making any sense either. Like, I don't know how your
Yeah,
brain works, but, like, when
it doesn't.
I mean, yeah, assimilating information for me is already kinda, like, a little bit of a tricky process, but, like, also when I'm, like, very upset and I've got, like, all these, like, different threads that
Mhm.
I wanna follow and talk about, I can't, like, put them together in a way that makes sense until I've had, like, a little bit of time to just be like,
Yeah.
"Okay, what are the important beats of this story? What is the story?"
Yeah, like, stepping back from it, but, like, also in your head stepping back from it and like, zooming out of it.
Totally. Which, by the way, hi, I'm Hoots.
"Oh, Kaylin, that's me."
This is our podcast, Respect the Dead.
"We're on TV."
That's so true. Look, mom, all my dreams came true. Okay, so we're talking about Jeffrey Epstein today. Jeffrey Epstein was born January 20th, 1953. So Aquarius is this one's on you.
You know what you did.
You know what you did. He grew up in the Coney Island area of New York. His mom was a school aide, and his dad worked for the New York City Parks and Recreation Department as a groundskeeper and a gardener.
Okay, wait, is Coney Island more than just a little amusement park thing?
Yeah, yeah. I've never
Okay,
actually been there, but yeah, like there's like a there. His neighborhood wasn't called Coney Island, but it was like that area.
okay. So he wasn't, like,
He wasn't living in an
sleeping in
amusement
one of
park.
the, like, Ferris wheel baskets or
No.
something, right? Like, okay.
No, his family was, like, pretty comfortably middle class, and he was a pretty clever kid. He was a very intelligent person, so he even as, like, a child, he started tutoring his fellow students as a way to, like, earn a little extra money on the side. He took piano lessons from the age of 5, and in 1967, when Jeffrey was 14, he even attended the National Music Camp at the Interlochen Center for the Arts, which was like a very prestigious arts boarding school here in Michigan. I know some people who went to Interlochen.
Why do I why do I know that name?
It's very famous. You might have
But
just, like, heard it in
I
passing.
shouldn't know, hold on.
There might be a
Oh,
famous person you like who went there.
Chapel Roan went there, and when
I
they were
believe that.
when she was getting canceled, people were like, "Oh, really? She's not harmful? Then why did you go to Interlochen like Jeffrey Epstein?"
That's amazing. That is incredible.
I'm pretty sure it's in my Chapel Road video.
I know some people who went to Interlock. I think they went to the, like, actual boarding school, like, during
Oh,
the
she
at
went to,
least
like,
one of them
summer
I know.
camp.
Yeah, he went to summer camp too, like, he didn't go to the
Okay.
boarding school, because like me, he did not have enough money to go to boarding school. But as a fully grown billionaire, Epstein would eventually end up giving a lot of money to Interlochen. Despite his interest and his aptitude in music, he was not going to pursue a career as a pianist. However, because part of the reason he was good at music was because he was good at math. And when you're good at math, you can typically pursue more lucrative careers than music. He graduated from high school at the age of 16 and started college at Cooper Union before transferring to NYU in 1971 and ultimately dropping out in 1974 because, and this is the first red flag, he was just one of those guys who was like kind of a genius, but couldn't be bothered to finish his degree.
Yeah, I don't
And those
trust it.
guys, you got to watch those guys. You got to watch them.
Mhm.
They're too smart and they got too much time on their hands.
And also like, "Oh, you don't wanna finish your degree?" I did a bachelor's, master's, and doctorate in, like, 25 hours.
Yeah,
Like,
just
you didn't
dedicate
have
yourself.
25 hours?
Yeah.
Maybe
I do
pull yourself up by those strappy boots.
I do feel okay, so this is a red flag, but I do feel like it can go like it only goes one of two ways. Like the people who is like the smartest person in the room but never finishes their degree is either like the most wonderful, like life-changing person you've ever met, or they're like a rapist and there's like no in between.
Okay, because, like, one way is and it also depends, like, what you do after you leave.
Right.
If you drop out and then start a tech startup, rapist.
Yeah.
If you drop out and then become, like, a
Become a
bartender
hippie.
and do and
Yeah.
work community theater or whatever,
Yeah.
sweet baby angel, but also probably a rapist. It actually has nothing to do with dropping out, and more so that a lot of men are rapists. Look to your left,
It's
look
true.
to your
It's
right. All of
ah!
those men are rapists.
Oh my god, you scared me. I thought one was in the room with me.
Honestly, your camera's so pixelated because of the connection right now that, like, if one was, I wouldn't have been able to see them to point them out
So
to you.
scary. That's so
I'm like, "What are
scary.
those 8 pixels behind Hoots' 12 pixels?"
Okay, so Jeffrey didn't graduate from college, but Jeffrey, classic scammer, lied on his resume and said that he actually graduated from NYU and got a cushy job teaching at the Dalton School in Manhattan's Upper East Side, which is a private prep school.
It's on them for not checking. I'm so
Yeah,
sorry.
it truly
Like,
is.
if you
Just make
hire
a phone
someone
call.
yeah, like a quick like, I guess back then they couldn't send an email because they didn't have emails, but
But they had
a
phones.
fax, a little fax?
He did eventually get found out, but he was allowed
Cute.
to stay because the
Ugh,
headmaster, a guy called Donald Barr, was just like feeling kind of generous and he was like, I like his moxie.
yeah.
Ooh,
He's like,
men really get away with
honestly, I
everything.
didn't go to school either.
I don't even know how to read.
I'm
I
not
just put
even
on
here
this
right
suit and
now."
people believe me.
You, like, look over and he's actually, like, a 2D cutout with, like, a phone off the receiver behind him.
I'm not even in the room. I'm in Jamaica, baby. I've been on vacation for the last
Seagulls.
6 years.
What's this guy's name? I love him.
Donald Barr.
Yeah.
Sounds about right.
Yeah.
While at the Dalton school, Epstein got a reputation for flirting with the teenage female students, even showing up at parties where the girls would be drinking. He was eventually dismissed in 1976 because he was a shitty teacher. Like, he was like bad
I
at
believe that
teaching.
about
He's just,
him.
yeah. Oh, I'm sorry. The guy who dropped out of college and is just hitting on the teenage students.
He's like, "How am I supposed to be a good teacher? I've never even had any teachers when because I dropped out of"
And I,
Oop,
but it actually worked out for Epstein that he got fired. It always works out for
did
these
it.
motherfuckers. It always works out for these motherfuckers because a couple of the kids he taught were the children of Alan Greenberg, the CEO of Bear Stearns, an investment bank and brokerage firm. So he just like offered Epstein a role there. It's like, my kid's
He's like,
teacher got
"Hey,
fired. Come work in finance.
hey, heard you got fired for scam and lying and pervin. So,
Yeah.
I know the perfect
Sounds.
place for you, at my
Yeah.
right-hand side.
Have you ever thought about Wall Street?
Have you ever wanted to be a Jafar?"
He did have big vizier energy.
I was not BBD.
No.
D.
Maybe
Energy.
Denergy. Big Vizier Denergy.
Gorgeous. Denergy would be a beautiful name for a boy.
I was just thinking that. Epstein did very well at Bear Stearns and in the finance world in general for reasons that are suspiciously opaque. We don't know exactly why he rose among the ranks as quickly as he did, but by 1980, 4 years after joining Bear Stearns, he became a partner. And I think that almost certainly means that the answer is crimes. Like,
Mhm.
They've never actually said why he rose so quickly, but he did, and so I think that has to mean he was probably getting away with a lot of financial crimes, and
Mhm,
to be honest, knowing where he went, he was probably also engaging in some sex crimes and
mhm,
blackmailing fellow sex criminals on Wall Street.
mhm.
Allegedly. Our lawyers have said that I need to say allegedly.
Our lawyers, who are
Our
also
lawyer.
dead.
Yeah. Well, that's why we hired them. It's on
Our lawyer,
brand.
Roy Cohn, who we talked to through
Mhm.
our branded Ouija
Froggy?
board.
Frog Daddy?
Fratty.
Oh my god. Okay, I've only got one picture for this whole thing because
Okay.
I don't wanna send
Yeah, we
pictures,
don't need to be, like, looking at photos.
but I do wanna send you this picture of him in 1980 shortly after being made partner.
Number 1, I love your wig. It looks really real. I'm not gonna be able to figure out who it is, but he looks suspiciously. I mean, he's giving, like, young Hollywood.
I thought John Travolta.
I can see John Travolta, but his face is, like, super narrow. I don't know. It's somebody that's not old Hollywood, but it doesn't matter. He looks just like a
It's
regular pervert, just a
it's
run of
just
the
a
mill,
funny
everyday,
picture.
work-a-day pervert.
It's a really funny picture. It's just so it's so 1980. Like, of course, this is
Yeah.
a picture of him in 1980. That
He is
mop on his
coked out to
head.
hell in this
Oh my
photo.
god, he is so coked out. Like,
The fact that there are even shadows in his nostrils and they're not just, like, beautiful, effervescent white circles is a surprise, but
he probably just has one nostril at this point. It's just like a
that's fair.
hole. In 1981, 1 year after being made partner, Jeffrey Epstein was politely asked to leave Bear Stearns after being found guilty of some kind of securities exchange violation. So he went and he formed his own consulting firm called Intercontinental Assets Group Incorporated. And I know
Okay,
it
well,
sounds
that's
fake.
those are all
Those are all
words
words.
individually. Together? Wait, give me that one again.
Intercontinental Assets
Intercontinental Assets Group?
Incorporated.
Yeah, gink. I love
It's
it.
like It's like
It's
what's
just
that, like,
nonsense.
airline in all the TV shows, like, Oceanic or whatever?
Yeah.
Or, like,
The
Acme? It just sounds like a fake
yeah.
it sounds like a made up company so that a TV show doesn't get sued. And
It also
eventually
sounds like a front. Like,
it sure does.
it sounds like a
It sounds like he's
made-up
doing
company in a
crimes.
TV show so they don't get sued, but in the TV show, it's even a front.
They're doing yeah. That's why they needed to come up with a fake one. And eventually in 1988, he'd found a financial management firm, J. Epstein and Company. Between 1987 and 1989, he'd also worked with a debt collection agency called Towers Financial Corporation, which in 1933 would be exposed for running one of the biggest Ponzi schemes in US
Oh my
history.
god.
And Stephen Hoffenberg, who'd hired Epstein, would claim in court documents that Epstein was involved, but Epstein was never formally charged. So he was doing all kinds of crimes, just tons of financial crimes, probably also some
I'm
other
o
crimes.
I'm okay with, like, most financial crimes. Don't quote me in Minecraft.
Mhm.
You were not allowed to use this at a trial. But being, like, a debt collector who's also scamming, like, I don't wanna be like,
Yeah,
"How could you get any lower than that?" Because I know, because 'cause I've heard, because 'cause I've used the internet. I know about this man. Well, like, 3
right.
things, but all 3 things I know were worse than this. So
Yeah. There's definitely worse yet to come, but he is a scumbag through and through.
ugh.
He has been sucking scum at the bottom of the pond since the moment he was born.
He had, like, a super scummy water birth, and he ingested a lot of
Right.
algaes, so that
Just
explains
hoovering
quite
it
a bit
up.
about him.
Yeah. And that's why you shouldn't do any hippie home births.
No. Actually, water births, I'm pretty sure were, like, they're not actually good. I think that's just nonsense.
Are they actually bad?
I think so. I think Sarah said it in the group chat. She would
I
know
believe
out of
it.
everyone we know.
Yeah. I
Yeah,
believe that,
so
like,
that
sitting in a
explains.
sitting in a hot bath of your own afterbirth is probably n like, not like, it's, like, a good way to get a bacterial infection, right? Epstein was very good at
No,
building
he
up a lot
wasn't.
of
Oh.
good at.
Clipped.
Epstein was super fucking good. An angel, some would say. Um, he was very adept at building up a lot of mystery about around himself because he was a liar. But
He's so mysterious. Nobody knows anything about him.
because he lies.
It's because he tells everybody 3 different stories.
And it turns out that lying a bunch is like really good for business. He claimed that he only managed the assets of people who made $1 billion or more a year, despite the fact that financial records show this to be flat out untrue. He told people that he was a CIA intelligence agent and that he worked as a consultant for foreign governments.
Oh my god. I love the idea of being like, "Yeah, I'm a CIA agent." Like, if anybody says that to you, that's how you know they're not a CIA
Yeah.
agent. Like, a CIA agent would be like, "Oh, like, I'm in consulting."
Right. So the thing is with all of this bullshit is that then he was like maybe but because of all this bullshitting,
Mhm.
he was like maybe able to like bullshit his way into making a lot of these lies become true because he was like so good at lying. Like like the stuff about him only working with billionaires. Like this is
Well, yeah,
my own theory. Cuz
then eventually, you start getting billionaires and you get rid
yeah,
of your shittier,
millionaires.
smaller
And
clients.
that's kind of what happened.
It's so much easier to steal from a billionaire. A millionaire, like a let's
Yeah,
say a dozen
because they're all
millionaire,
deranged
is gonna notice
narcissists.
their money missing. A billionaire is gonna be like, "Who knows where it all goes? In, out." Ah!
Yeah, and a billionaire is like, "Oh my god, all the other billionaires go with this guy because he
Yeah,
only accepts us?" Like,
yeah,
I don't want my finances managed by this disgusting by a guy who's, like, dealing with disgusting millionaires.
yeah,
He's
like a peasant millionaire, like a disgust like, "Oh,
Ew.
I'm sorry, your foyer is attached to your home and isn't, like, a separate entrance connected to your home through, like, a high-speed rail in a glass tunnel? I don't think
No.
so."
I don't want I don't want him managing my money if he's touching the dirty peasant money of millionaires.
Oh my god, it's like children who don't want the stuff on their plates touching, but it's like, "I don't want my billions touching your
Touching your
disgusting
millions.
millions."
And one of
Also,
those
hi, I'm that child still. I don't need my I do not need my food touching.
And one of those billionaires was a man named Les Wexner. Do you know who Les Wexner is?
No, but I would have pushed him in a locker.
Yeah, what a name. He does sound like a Superman villain or whatever. Les Wexner was the CEO of L Brands, The Limited, Victoria's Secret, Bath and Body Works, Lane
Okay,
Bryant. Like every American mall is like 65% powered by L Brands.
okay.
I corrected myself and said was because Les has since transitioned out of his role as CEO, but not because he's dead, unfortunately.
I
His
was like,
episode
"Oh
is
my
still
god,
coming.
is Wes dead, fired, or a woman now?" I was like, "I have no idea where this is gonna go."
I should have paused after transitioned. He transitioned
My brain
out of
paused
his
and,
role.
did, like, a reboot quickly, so it did feel like it.
No, he's still very much alive. He's just and I think he's still working with L Brands in some capacity, but he's transitioned out of his role as CEO. But at the time he was CEO, and why Les Wexner trusts Epstein at this point, who is at this point a nobody who got fired for financial crimes, is kind of murky and suspect. But he does. And according to some accounts, after being hired by Wexner, Epstein goes from living in a one-bedroom apartment in New York to hiring private jets for himself and purchasing a ranch within a year. So it seems sus. Like it seems like that raises some red flags
Mhm. Roy
about
Cohn
everyone
is
involved.
telling me I can't call him a pedophile, but
But
I can't call him not a pedophile.
it looks like a pedophile and it quacks like a pedophile.
And it bought a ranch.
Wexner also gifted Epstein his enormous Manhattan mansion that Epstein would go on to kit out with a bunch of secret cameras. Yeah. Yeah,
Okay.
every property he ever had was filled with secret camera, like pinhole cameras.
Okay, that's extra spooky. Like,
Mhm.
at least hire, like, staff to, like, stand behind those paintings with holes cut in their eyes that, like, follow you when you walk down the hallway or whatever. Like, the
No,
making
Epstein
it a
wanted to see for
pinhole
himself.
camera is extra spooky.
Epstein wanted to see what you were up to himself,
Mhm.
and he also wanted blackmail material.
Of course. See, I would definitely love a mansion with secret rooms behind, like, bookshelves where you, like, pull down a book and the door
Oh
opens.
my god, so cool.
But that's mostly as, like a panic
A
room.
quirky I was like, it'd be such a quirky place to hold parties. Like, come to my bookshelf bar.
Nobody would ever find out about it. Or maybe I would have 2, and the inside the secret room with the bookshelf, there would be, like, a statue or something that you pull down to open, like,
To go to the
a
panic room.
to the actual panic room.
I like that because, like, if you have to go to your panic room, you might, like, get thirsty while you're in there, and you can be like, "Let me just,
Mhm.
like, duck out of the panic room really quickly to grab a
To the
drink from the
bar.
bar, and then I'll go back
Yeah.
in,
Yeah.
and I'll continue panicking."
Like like dashing out and seeing somebody there and being like, "Okay, you don't see me, okay?"
So Epstein takes over the management of Les Wexner's finances, and this is huge for him both as a contractor and as a pervert because he
Mhm.
makes millions in fees and he also starts telling young girls that he knows a lot of Victoria's Secret models and that he can get them modeling contracts in order to coerce them into having sex with him and his rich friends.
The easiest way to get a modeling contract is to ask a model to sign it. I guess, like
To be fair, these girls that he's talking to are like 14, so they believe
okay.
him. Like they're
Yeah.
not yeah,
Well, if he
they're
knows
not
Victoria's Secret
business women.
models and now he knows me, ergo ipso facto,
He can introduce
Lauren
me to
Ipsum.
whoever made them a Victoria's Secret model.
Exactly.
Throughout this period, as he's building his wealth, he's also donating a lot to university research departments, NGOs, and art programs, and holding parties and salons with influential scientists, intellectuals, and celebrities. Again, he was like very smart. So, like, part of the reason he's doing all this is because he's genuinely interested in all of these things
Mhm.
and people. And part of it is also because he's like a social climber and also a blackmail artist. So, he wants to blackmail famous people. He's also very interested in philosophy and science, and especially in cryonics and eugenics. And he frequently
Horrible
expressed
names
an
for girls.
cryonics and eugenics. Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. It's the worst name for a pair of twins. And he frequently expressed an interest in setting up a baby farm at his ranch in New Mexico and impregnating a bunch of women with his seed in order to improve the human race.
Okay, so working backwards,
Hmm.
improve.
Hmm. The world would be so much better with a bunch of little Epsteins running around.
I've always said that. Those were actually my first words.
Yeah. It's also like, I don't want to spend too much time like wildly speculating on who among the people he knew were complicit in this episode, but like
Mhm.
it is interesting that he has like the same interest in like positive eugenics that Elon Musk has. And
Mhm.
they definitely were in the same circles. Some of these rich freaks are very weird about babies.
I wonder if it's like a midlife crisis. Who am I leaving
Mm.
this all to? My legacy is the only thing that matters, and it feels really tiny right now, kind of vibe.
And rather than just like adopting one child, he's like, I'm gonna have 37 children by
Yeah.
11
Well,
different women.
adopting isn't the same, right?
You could also
It's just
have
like you don't
one
want your
biological
billions
child.
touching your millions.
You could also have one biological child, and then your one biological child would be a billionaire and not a shitty millionaire.
Yeah, but what if it gets hit by like a car or something? You need backup plans.
You need an heir and a spare then, and you
Mhm.
don't need more than that. The royal family taught
Well,
us
no,
that.
it gets greedy.
Mhm. Yeah.
And then
Speaking
also
of
there's like power struggles and
yeah, totally.
Yeah.
Speaking of the royal family, they're gonna come up a little bit in this episode too, but not yet. So it's also around this time that he meets Ghislaine Maxwell. Ghislaine is a fascinating person that I'm not going to spend a lot of time on today because she's still alive and serving out a 20-year prison sentence for child sex trafficking in her mid 60s, which I'm hoping means that we'll get to do a full episode on her very soon.
Somebody's gonna give her the old sharpened
Prison.
toothbrush
Yeah, doing prison time for molesting and raping children when
while
you're in
being
your
like a
mid
rich
60s.
ass
Yeah,
fancy lady.
you are not gonna you're not doing well right now. But Ghislaine was a British socialite whose father had been a media mogul and a spy for possibly a spy for Israel. It's a presumed spy for Israel. Robert Maxwell essentially owned a large portion of the British tabloids, and as such, the Maxwells were very close to the royal family.
Hmm.
Robert Maxwell was also profoundly abusive, and Ghislaine was his favorite child, which produces a very specific kind of dynamic. Like, daddy beats us all, but he loves me most.
Those sound like Ethel Kane lyrics.
It's she's so interesting and so contemptible, but like her background is like it is like watching like a Greek tragedy because like
Well, I hope she
there's no way
dies
she's gonna
soon
make it.
because that's the only way I'm ever gonna find anything out about her. That's
Mhm.
actually the only way I learn anything about anyone.
Ghislaine was, according to all accounts, incredibly charming and always needy and needed to be the center of attention in any social situation, which, like, same. And she was also on the hunt for a man who could take care of her the way daddy did when in 1991 her father died very suddenly and maybe mysteriously. And the banks called in all of his outstanding loans, leaving his surviving family broke.
I love that you were like, she was so charming, needy, desperate, always needed to be the center of attention. I'm like, yeah, I'm already charmed.
Honestly, I gotta. The official inquest of his death ruled that he'd had a heart attack before falling off of his yacht, the Lady Ghislaine, and drowning, but Ghislaine Maxwell insists that her father was murdered.
By her or by
No,
someone else?
because
Okay.
she loved daddy. She was daddy's little girl.
Daddy's little boat.
Daddy's little boat. So in the 1990s, following her father's death, she moves to Manhattan, where she meets Jeffrey Epstein. Okay, do we want to take a break now?
Yeah.
Let's do
I
it.
hope we get maybe some cute little ads for boats.
Oh my god, for yachts.
For a little yacht, a cute,
Yacht
huge yacht.
gang. If you're in the market for a yacht, please leave a comment. Right.
And
Yacht.
sponsor us.
Please. All right, and we're back. So our star-crossed lovers have just met, Ghislaine Maxwell and Jeffrey Epstein. And Epstein is wealthy enough to take care of Ghislaine, and Ghislaine is connected enough to high society to be of service to Epstein. So this is like, you know, the beginning of like a weirdly complementary mercenary romantic relationship.
Yeah, I'm like, what a beautiful match made in hell.
Yeah. And they both get to have their weird little transactional relationship. And one of Ghislaine's very close friends that she introduces to Epstein is none other than the Queen's favorite son, the Duke of York, Prince Andrew.
Hmm.
So, Ghislaine's connections to high society, in addition to Epstein's within the world of science and American politics, is how so many famous people become intertwined with Epstein, whether or not they took part in any of the sex trade with him.
Hmm.
He sought out the best and the brightest minds and biggest celebrities in order to basically create this like Gatsby like aura about himself. And that in turn only served to increase his wealth and renown because he was suddenly surrounded by all of these influential and powerful people that he could sort of like play off of one another. And for those who did take part in sex crimes with Epstein, he also used the threat of blackmail pretty liberally. Infamously, each of his homes were equipped with hundreds of hidden cameras for the express purpose of blackmailing famous celebrities and heads of state. Also, his airplane, which he named the Lolita Express. That's not like a name that the press gave to it.
I didn't
That's his
okay,
actual name.
I thought that that was like a dark humor little name for it.
Nope, that was the name he gave to his plane. So yeah, like there are a lot of people who took flights on that plane who probably did not engage in like any sex crimes, but like dude, you still got on a plane called the Lolita Express. Like did that not give you some pause? Did you
I
not
love
go like why did you Yay, Jeff is always seen with these like really young teenage girls and he named his plane something creepy. Like did you not ask questions?
it's like, "Oh, so now it's a crime to take a free flight on the Aeroperv?" Like, the pedo plane?
The
Like,
pedo
what do you do?
plane.
They're like, "Yeah, he even got that name frosted on the windows." But, like, how was I to know? Lolita Express.
Lolita Express.
It's like how Dexter's boat is called the Slice of Life. Like,
But
they're just they're just
that's
mocking you at
cleverer.
this point. Oh, so now naming yourself after J.K. Rowling's favorite book and one of the most beautiful love stories ever written is not clever?
Listen, I love Lolita. I think it's a wonderful novel. I would never name anything after it 'cause that's fucking weird.
Mhm. Lolita? Not a good name for a girl?
No.
Not anymore.
Even she thought that. She didn't go by Lolita. That was just something that her sex abuser
Oh,
called her.
gross.
Yeah.
That makes it even worse.
Yes.
I
Her name
obviously have
was
never read this
Dolores.
because of how I can't read. Oh.
Yeah. The
Mm.
character's name is Dolores. She went by Lo sometimes or Dolly.
Okay,
But
Lo is a gorgeous name.
his little pervert name for her was
Yeah, no.
Lolita. Her rapist gave her that name, and people are like,
Okay.
it's a romance. So, Palm Beach County, Florida
Wait, I'm
is
sorry. Did it say Lolita Express on the side of the plane?
I no, I don't think so. I think he just
Okay.
called it that.
Okay.
It's not a boat. It's not like where you do like the cute little
Well,
the
they'll
cute little
have like
airbrushing.
Sun Air or whatever stenciled on these fuckers, but okay, fair.
No, I don't think it did. Because I don't think they do that with their private jets. They definitely do that with their yachts. But
Okay.
he did christen it that. He called it that. Palm Beach County, Florida is the wealthiest county in Florida with a median income of around $44,000, which is a really depressing sentence.
I was like,
Yeah.
ooh. Ooh.
Yikes. Yikes, Florida. Yikes. The major metropolitan center of West Palm Beach has many residents living at or below the poverty line, while the city of Palm Beach, a small barrier island off the coast of the mainland, is home to around 30 billionaires and served as the winter residencies of two U.S. presidents, JFK and Donald Trump.
And it's an island?
Yeah, so Florida.
How, like big?
No, no.
Okay.
Where I'm from is like this too. So Florida's like a peninsula, and that has a bunch of barrier
Hmm.
islands, which are like long, thin strips
Gotcha.
of land. But usually they're only like a few miles across,
Okay.
a few miles long, and then like a few miles across. And they get y- y- you're you're really not supposed to build on them. They like
Well, that's what I
protect.
was wondering because I
Yeah,
was like,
they protect the mainland during like hurricanes and
mhm.
stuff, but like not when you develop them. So like one of the issues that we've been having, especially as like climate change has gotten so much worse in Florida, is like these $1 million homes that they build on these barrier islands just get absolutely ravaged. And then the
I
storm
was gonna
surge on the
say,
mainland
like,
is worse.
you're literally you're like farther out than the shoreline. There's
Yeah.
nothing protecting you whatsoever. Like,
Yeah. And barrier islands are close enough that like most of them are accessible by like bridges in Florida.
okay.
So this is the case with this as well. Like you can go from West Palm Beach to Palm Beach by car.
Okay.
So Jeffrey Epstein maintained residences in New York, Paris, New Mexico, the US Virgin Islands, and of course, Palm Beach, where his very tackily decorated, in my honest opinion, 6-bedroom, $22 million mansion was the subject of the first police raid related to his sexual crimes against children. It's the early 2000s, and a girl attending a high school in West Palm Beach gets into a fight with another girl at school after the second girl calls her a prostitute. And in the midst of the struggle, the first girl's purse gets knocked to the ground and opens, and like there's like a couple $100s in it. So she gets sent to the principal's office and she's asked where she got all that money. And she explains that there is an older man who lives in Palm Beach who pays her for massages and to recruit other high school girls to give him massages. So the school calls the police, and the police interview the girl about these massages, which often involve pay bumps in return for sexual favors,
Mhm.
and they realize that they're dealing with a child sex trafficking case. And this girl ends up becoming one of the Jane Does who would go on to testify against Jeffrey Epstein. Around the same time, completely independently from this Jane Doe, a mother in West Palm Beach had filed a complaint with the police that her daughter was told by one of her classmates that a man on Palm Beach would pay her $200 to give him a massage. And I think the daughter showed up, but then got the hell out of Dodge when it seemed weird. And the mom called the police and was like, "This is fucked up. You need to look into this guy."
I love the when it seemed weird.
I
Like,
know, but
now that I'm
we are
here, I
talking
can
about
tell that this is
children.
dangerous.
We are talking about children.
Oh, no.
Like,
As someone who a man, met a man online and then met him offline when I was, like, 15. We went to the movies together, and I was
yeah.
like, "What's weird about a movie? I go to it all the time." And I was sitting there, I was like, "Now that I'm here, I can tell that this is fucked up.
Yeah, children are
I'm gonna
very bad at
finish
risk
watching
assessment.
40 Days and 40 Nights with you, but then I am out of here."
I know we're talking about I'm going to use children and teenagers interchangeably because we are talking about people who
Teenagers
at
are
the
children.
yeah,
Like,
and are famously very bad at like risk assessment.
mhm.
And we are talking about girls who at the time they were assaulted were between the ages of 12 and 17. And 12 in my mind is fully a child.
Oh, that's a baby.
Yeah, that
As
is
a
that is like
toddler.
in some cases not even hitting puberty yet.
Yeah.
So, Palm Beach County Police start pulling on these threads and eventually figure out that the guy is Jeffrey Epstein, which is like, again, because we are dealing with kids. Like at first they were like, he goes by Jeff. I don't even know his address because someone else took me there, but I think it's like roughly around this area. So they had to like interview a lot of people before they could even really figure out who it was because these are kids and they don't even know where they're going. But they narrow it down to Jeffrey Epstein, and they positively identify around 60 victims, but they estimate that the real number of victims is likely to be in the lower hundreds. Yeah. So
There's
this
so
is,
many.
and this is just for Palm Beach County. This is not inclusive of victims outside of their jurisdiction. Like I said, he had homes in New York, Paris, New Mexico, the US Virgin Islands. That's also not accusers. It was not 60 accusers. The number of total accusers worldwide of Jeffrey Epstein to this day, I think, is only around a dozen. It's unclear because several of them are Jane Does, and I don't think the exact number of Jane Does has ever been disclosed. And I believe that there are around like 8 named victims. So these are like people that Palm Beach County police identified and then spoke to. Some were too terrified to talk to them. Some were like in some cases in love with Jeffrey because he groomed them
Groom them. Yeah.
from the time they were preteens until they were like 17. So they didn't want to go on the record as accusers. So but they did their due diligence and they were like, we do know that this girl was at this place at this time. So regardless of the
You also know,
extent of
like,
the
oh,
abuse.
this one told us that she recruited this one,
Right.
and
And I get like these are police investigating a sex crime, so their numbers are going to be very conservative. Let's be real.
mhm.
Like they are more likely to err on the side of disbelieving victims. So they identified around 60 people. I kind of want to talk about Jeffrey Epstein's MOs and how this kind of thing happens. I don't think we'll ever know when and with whom the chain began, or how many victims there are in total. But Epstein's massage ring scam involved having high school girls or very young women, like 18 to 22, recruit other high school girls to come give him a massage in exchange for $200. That price is always like very consistent. And it also doesn't seem like a lot of money, but the girls who usually responded were girls like Virginia Roberts. These were girls from broken homes, girls who lived
Mhm.
in trailer parks, to whom like $200 meant, you
What
know.
year? What years around?
This investigation is in
Mhm.
the early 2000s. It's 2006 is when it starts.
Okay, so inflation, it's probably like
Yeah.
350
But
now.
it's not
Like,
like it's not
yeah, it's not
massively more.
yeah. But that's
Uh
still like
yeah.
a shit ton of money.
Yeah, for a teenager.
Especially when you're young, like,
Mhm. Mhm.
uh
Once they came to his Palm Beach mansion, the girls were told to state that they were over the age of 18. This was a farce meant to lend Epstein and his
of
accomplices
course.
plausible deniability. One of
Look, on the
Epstein,
hidden camera I didn't have permission to record them on, they said they were 18.
she told me she was 18. This is a classic excuse. She told me she
Oh,
was
yeah.
18.
In
Um,
fact, the classic
the
excuse.
classic excuse. She
And
had so
the
much
only
makeup
one that
on.
could potentially actually get you out of it,
She
if
came
it
on
were
to
true
me.
and it was provable. But, like, also at the same time, it's like, "Did you ask to see ID?"
Nope.
Because
And
18 is very young still,
it
sir.
sure is when you're what at this point, like 60, 50.
Yeah. She told me she was 18. It's like, "And then you told her to go home to her parents?" Like,
And one of Epstein's recruiters in a police interview, and I believe in interviews with journalists, recalled once bringing over a 22-year-old for a massage. And Epstein berated her and screamed at her and told her to take her away and bring someone else. So the
"Yeah, get this old bitch out of my house."
yeah, the understanding was we need to be bringing him 14-year-olds because that's what he
Yeah.
prefers, but they need to expressly state they are 18.
So sick.
And actually, a similar outburst occurred when one of the girls tried bringing Epstein a teenaged black girl. Because I'm sorry if I'm like milkshake ducking Epstein for you, but like unfortunately, Epstein was also racist.
This whole time, I was like, sort of, you don't wanna judge a book by its cover,
Right.
even if the cover says the Lolita Express on it. But now that I found out that he's racist, I'm afraid I'm going to have to cancel him.
Now that I know that he's racist, I can no longer support Jeffrey Epstein.
That, like, that meme from Community, that's
I can excuse pedophilia, but I draw. Oh, wait, no, I can excuse racism, but I draw the line at pedophilia. Except it's the opposite. Yeah.
Sick.
The girls were taken upstairs. Jeffrey would come out wearing nothing but a towel and lay down on a massage bed. And after the girls started the massage, he would sexually abuse them, which, again, I'm not going to be giving graphic details about. But
Yeah, I don't think we
sometimes,
need it.
yeah, not on this podcast, baby. Sometimes he would groom them and build up sexual abuse over a matter of weeks and months, giving them more money in exchange for submitting to more abuse and promising them careers and connections. And sometimes he'd just forcibly rape them. Often, Ghislaine Maxwell would take part in recruiting the girls. Her former friends recalled her bragging about how Jeffrey's sexual appetite required at least 3 orgasms a day, and that she'd arranged to have ladies come service him. If any of her friends knew at the time that these ladies were underage, they didn't say anything. And sometimes Ghislaine would also take part in the abuse, molesting and raping children alongside her lover. When the girls would grow too old for Jeffrey's tastes, somewhere around the age of 17, he'd use them as recruiters, making sure that they knew they were complicit now. And if they told anyone about what he
Mhm.
did to them, they'd go to jail, or maybe they'd just disappear. He had lots of connections, and he told the girls he had whole governments in his pockets.
Getting women and girls to recruit girls plays on that whole, like, how dangerous could it really be when,
Hmm.
like, there's going to be another woman there.
Yeah.
Like,
Oh, and
and
so many of the girls,
utilizing that is
yeah,
just so fucked up. Like,
so many of the girls he abused who met Ghislaine first said that about her. They were
mhm.
like, it felt weird, but like also she was so nice and she said she was going to be there the whole time.
It's like Paul Bernardo and Carla Homolka. Like, if there's a woman there,
Hmm.
playing on
Yeah.
that and using that to your advantage to be like, oh, I'm not as terrifying as it, this situation is as terrifying as it could possibly be, because look what's going to happen here in front of like my wife or my
Yeah.
friend or
And it was a way of buying the silence of his former victims, is like
Mhm.
saying, well, like you're also a predator now. So like if I go down, you're
You
coming with
brought her
me.
here
Yeah.
and like you knew what happened because it happened to you or whatever,
Yeah.
like
You're a sex trafficker now. Some of his favorites he'd lend out to friends, including Virginia
uh,
Roberts, who I mentioned in the introduction, and who is most infamously Prince Andrew's accuser. She is the blonde teenage girl pictured in that photo with him from 2001. Have you seen this very famous photo of him with
no.
what is clearly a teenager?
Well, I
You
will
haven't seen
say
it?
I possibly have, but my brain is coated in resin.
It's very famous. He claims to not remember ever meeting her, but there's a very clear picture of him with a very clear picture of her, and she looks 17. I'm sending you a Guardian article with a picture at the top.
Oh yeah, this is not oh, and there's little Ghislaine.
Yeah, in the background, a little
If
jump
it
scare.
is if it isn't Ghislaine, yeah, this is like very clearly them together in a way that like could not even really be photoshopped back then. Like
Oh god. He's
grainy as
yeah.
hell with the flash, like
We're going to
hand
talk more
around her
about
waist.
yeah, hand around her waist. And we're going to talk more about Prince Andrew in our morgue, actually, because he's been a real fucking peach about all of this.
Why are
And
they even taking a photo with her?
it's so clearly a picture of, I mean, it's a very easily identifiable picture of him, and also like very
Mhm.
obviously a picture of her too. And she looks like a teenager. Like she does
Yeah, he's
not.
like, "Let's get both of our faces in here real good and make sure to turn the flash on." Like,
Don't put on any makeup, honey. I want you to look as young as
yeah,
possible.
like she she looks a lot like my sister, which is fucked up. But like my
Oh,
sister when she was like 15,
yeah.
like
She's allegedly 17 in this picture, but that's still not okay.
no. And if she told me
And
she
she
was
was trafficked.
18, I would be like, number 1, I don't talk to children, get away from me. Number 2, why are you lying, little girl?
Yeah.
Is your mom around here?
And at a certain point, even if she's 25, when somebody tells her you have to sleep with the prince because he's paid us, like she's been trafficked, honey. It's still a
Yeah.
crime. Epstein
I'm gonna
even
take a
made.
stand.
Mhm.
Trafficking, not okay.
No, we're we're not fans of trafficking on this podcast.
Just so people know, I wanted to make sure.
Epstein even made good on a few of his promises to the girls, arranging some of them with high powered marriages or job opportunities, making sure that his victims were bought and paid for, and that they'd have no recourse or sympathy if they chose to speak. In 2002, when Virginia Roberts was 19, Epstein and Maxwell decided to make good on their promises to Virginia and to send her to a real massage school in Chiang Mai, Thailand. She also said that as part of the agreement, she was expected to bring home a 12-year-old Thai girl with her for them.
Like, she was supposed to find a 12-year-old, or they had one lined up and she was supposed to
They
come
had one
back with
lined
her?
up and she was
Okay.
supposed to come back with her.
I was like, "What is she snatching? She's snatcher
Child
now?"
snatcher.
Yeah.
Yeah, apparently they bought a Thai girl and they were like, as part of you're allowed to go to college now and we'll pay for it, but you have to bring our next rape victim back.
And the college was literally them just trying to get her to go to fucking Thailand, I'm
A
assuming. They didn't care about
100%.
whatever the, like, $2,000 or whatever they spent on her massage
There's
school.
no reason for her to go to a massage school in Chiang Mai. Are you fucking
Yeah.
kidding me? Once in Thailand, Virginia met an Australian man named Robert Giuffre. The pair fell in love and got married, and Virginia informed Epstein and Maxwell that she would not be returning to them as planned and she would not be bringing them a child. Virginia and Robert Giuffre are still married, and they have 3 children. Virginia has
Is
not
he
only
age
been one of
appropriate?
Yes, he's the
Okay.
same age as her.
Okay.
Virginia has not only been one of the most vocal of Epstein's accusers, but has dedicated her life working as an advocate for victims of trafficking. You can learn more about Virginia's nonprofit, SOAR, by visiting speakoutactreclaim.org. In fact, why don't you all get out your phones and do that right now? And we'll take another little break for ads. Aside from the massage racket, Epstein's second favorite modus operandi was finding young women and girls with aspirations as models or in the arts and sciences and offering his services as a connection and wealthy patron in order to isolate and abuse them.
So
Epstein,
that's why he was supporting the arts so much.
it's one of the reasons.
Yeah.
Again,
Well,
like
just
he,
like that's a good reason to donate. Not sorry, not a
yeah,
good reason, but it
but
tracks
yeah,
that he would be doing these kinds of donations
right,
because if you do that, then you're able to promise people that you have connections. Like,
right.
oh, I can get you in. I just gave them $2 million this year.
And also, organizations are incentivized not to look into your
Mm.
behavior, your misbehavior, because like you donated an entire wing to a university or whatever. That's not to say, like, again, like the guy was like someone who was genuinely interested in this kind of stuff, but so it's not all that, but it's definitely a lot that.
This is why I don't donate to any money to anyone.
That's right.
I have
All my
no
money to
ulterior
myself.
motives. All I care about is
you,
myself.
you can't cancel me.
You can't cancel me. I've never helped anyone in my life.
Epstein funded a summer camp at Interlaken,
Mm.
and he abused girls there every time he visited.
I guess that's true. Chapel Roan is a piece of shit for going to camp there
Oh
then.
yeah. How dare she maybe get sexually abused? Wait,
For-
I hope
for-
she's too young. Maybe she was too young.
She's definitely too
She's
young.
too young. Yeah.
Homegirl's like 24 or something.
Whew, she really dodged a bullet there. One of Epstein's named accusers is Maria K. Farmer, who was an adult when he met her, having just graduated from a master's program at the New York Academy of Art. So she was like probably around 24 when they met. Maria's art at the time focused on a lot of intimate portraits of girlhood. Like they weren't sexual in nature, but many of her paintings featured teenage subjects in various stages of undress. So, of course, Jeffrey Epstein took notice. He was like, I love your paintings of naked girls.
The way I would mace any man if I was her that came up to me and said they liked my art. I'd be like, "Oh,
Like,
you should come
it's
back to
not for
my
you.
artist retreat where I do all my paintings with my live models." And then it's just like a hole in the ground covered in sticks and leaves. It's like a pit full of
With
extremely
spears
sharp
at the bottom.
sticks. Yeah.
Yeah. At an art show of hers, he negged her into selling him one of her paintings at a discount at like 50% off. Even though
Love
he's
your
a fucking
painting.
billionaire.
It's way too expensive for me though.
And he promised her, he was like, okay, listen, you're gonna give me this like really big discount,
I'm
but
gonna pay you an
I'm
exposure.
I'm gonna give you career opportunities. And do you know what career opportunity he offered Kaylin?
He had hordes of little girls for her to paint.
Well, it was just manning the front desk at one of his properties. He was like, "I'm gonna give you the opportunity of your life. Can you sit at this desk and answer phones?"
Like his business properties, or does he have house secretaries?
He has house secretaries. He's got like door managers.
Damn.
Yeah, he's that
Rich
kind of
people are
rich. You have to
crazy.
get buzzed in.
I
And
barely
when
have a doorway.
you have to get buzzed in. There's a front desk. There is staff. There is staff
Damn.
working at your apartment.
If
Yeah.
somebody offered me a job and it was just hanging out at their stupid, ugly house, I would be so mad. Like, she wants to be an
Yeah.
artist. She
She
doesn't
wants
wanna
to be
be
an
your
artist.
fucking receptionist.
And she fucking
She doesn't wanna
hated
be your
it.
dormouse.
She hated it. She was like, "What the
Yeah,
fuck
I
am I doing
bet.
here?" She also noticed that she was buzzing in a lot of very young girls.
Mm.
Clock
Then
that.
what did she do?
Where are all these 12-year-olds walking by? And
Oh, I'm running a massage training program.
for
Nothing weird about
12-year-olds.
that for 12-year-old girls in my bedroom. What's gotta be weird about that? Anyways, can you tell my pilot of the Lolita Express that me and some of the kids are going on a trip?
I like to take the girls to Disneyland as a little treat when they graduate.
No more treats, Jeffrey.
No more treats, Jeffrey.
Jeffrey, no more treats.
I don't like your treats. When Maria revealed that she had a 15-year-old sister, Jeffrey
No.
Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell became very interested in her and offered to send her to an elite college prep course that just happened to be on their ranch in New Mexico.
Okay, no more courses, lessons, schools at any of Epstein's properties. Oh, where do you go to school? This old man's house?
Yeah. Oh, we
Oh, this
run an
old man's
elite prep
ranch in the middle of nowhere?
we run an elite college prep course at our house. You should send her there. There will be other
Well, it
kids
doesn't
there, don't worry.
I'm like, "Oh, don't worry, there'll be several children there." It's like, well,
Tuition is free, and we'll fly
now
her
I'm
over there.
extra worried.
After Maria was commissioned to do some paintings for the film As Good as It Gets, she informed Epstein that she'd be resigning from the front desk position. And he was like, "Oh, no, no, you can come stay at my private residence on Les Wexner's property in Ohio while you complete the commission." He's like, "You don't want to paint those paintings in your own apartment. I'm going to send you to Ohio.
Like
You're
an
going to stay in
animal.
like the big house on Wexner's property that I have and do them there." And once she was in Ohio, Maria was informed by Ghislaine Maxwell that Jeffrey would like her to come massage his feet. As soon as she was alone with the pair, they both began sexually abusing her. After Maria returned home, she learned that her sister had also been abused in New Mexico. There was no elite college prep course, just Jeffrey Epstein, Ghislaine Maxwell, and an isolated property equipped with hundreds of hidden cameras.
That's a
Women,
literal fucking horror show.
yes, yeah,
Like, trying to get out, even if you wanted to, they had eyes over the
yeah.
entire fucking property.
There's a documentary on Netflix that I watched as part of the research for this, and one of the accusers, I can't remember which one it was. It it might have been Virginia, or it might have been Maria. I don't know. One of them was like on his island of Little St. James in fucking the US Virgin Islands. And she said at one point she like took off running toward the ocean. Like she was like, fuck it, I'm gonna like swim to shore. I'm gonna escape, which almost certainly would have killed her.
Yeah.
But she was like, I'm gonna just I'm gonna get the fuck out of here. I'm gonna swim. And she said Jeffrey immediately showed up, like where she was headed. So she was like, I know that there were cameras even on the island outside of the property, because like the second he saw me bolt for the sea, he came out and he was like, "Hey, what you doing?" Like a horror movie. Like a
Mhm.
horror movie. So, okay, kind of getting into how this kind of thing is able to happen, or like why this kind of thing happens. Women's bodies, especially the bodies of very young women and girls, are commodified in our society in ways that are both like overt and subconscious. And part of the reason Epstein was able to get away with so much abuse for so long is kind of due to this commodification, the treatment of sexual access to women's bodies, to women and girls as like a resource and a symbol of power, and why there's like this contradictory dynamic where in our like we're seeing this a lot right now online, like the seemingly contradictory dynamic where like men who seem to be like disgusted by female bodies are also driven, like by an almost unquenchable thirst to acquire more and more and more of them, because it's like just having young women and girls is a symbol of status and power.
Yeah.
And when a society treats being young, female, and beautiful as a resource, we also have a society that is less sympathetic to young female victims of abuse, especially when they're perceived to have gotten something in return, because it's like, well, you're 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 engaging in commerce then. You're
Yeah.
trading access to a resource that you have and that the rest of society thinks is valuable.
And even if everybody understands, and I'm using this term lightly just to get to the end of the sentence, but even if people
Right.
understand it's not a fair exchange,
Mhm.
it's still like, well, you learned your lesson. You won't be so naive
Yeah.
next time.
Yeah.
Just
You
like
gave
when
away your
somebody
little
gets ripped
diamonds.
off, somebody
Yeah.
pays too much for something. It's like, well, you should have known better.
Mhm. And, like, I know that our audience aren't the kind of people who are gonna be
Yeah.
like, "Oh, well, she knew what she was getting into," or, like, "She got paid, so she can't complain." But the ubiquity of that attitude, the fact that that attitude is kind of like the default in our society, is
Mhm.
exactly what predators like Epstein are counting on. Like,
Yeah.
he was banking on his victims not coming forward out of fear that they won't be believed, or that somebody will be like, "Well, you weren't
They'll be
raped,
punished as well.
you traded sex for opportunity." Like,
Yeah.
he is banking on that. So every time you accept that attitude or promote that attitude, you are you are assisting predators in acquiring and silencing more victims.
Anytime it's heard and not directly challenged
Mhm.
is reinforcing it.
Mhm.
I know there's
And it
probably not many like straight cis dudes listening to Respect the Dead. I know we have them.
we definitely
Hey,
have
I love
some.
you.
Yeah.
Hey, how are you?
Hey.
Welcome. I don't think the ones that do listen to this podcast are the ones who sit around listening to their friends talk about
No.
young girls and being like, listen, it would be hard for me to say no if she came up to me. Like, when you hear shit like that, you have to say something in that
Yeah.
moment in front of all your friends. And, like, yes, maybe you'll be called woke or something, but like,
Call out your shitty uncle. It's a lot of shitty uncles saying it. She knew what
hmm
she was getting into. She knew what she was doing. No, she didn't. She was 14.
yeah. Welcome to Respect the Dead. Kill your uncle.
That's right, bitch.
I know what uncle hates to see us coming.
The next episode we're doing is about all uncles.
Uncles as a class.
With his fucking wraparound sunglasses, his selfie and
Mm,
sitting in the front seat of his car. In March of 2006, the Palm Beach Police Department and the FBI began a 13-month investigation into Jeffrey Epstein's alleged sex trafficking and abuse of minors in the Palm Beach
finally, the
area.
FBI investigates this CIA.
The
What was
CIA
he? What
agent.
agent? Yeah.
In July of that year, Epstein was arrested by the Palm Beach Police Department on federal charges of procurement of a minor for prostitution and solicitation of a prostitute.
When did you just say that the investigation started?
2006, March of 2006. So this is
Okay, so
July,
it was only a few months later
only a few
that
months.
they
Yeah.
actually arrested him. Okay.
Palm
They
Beach had been
probably
like,
had so much evidence.
I
Homeboy
know.
just sitting across the street outside his house as like a parade of little girls come in and out.
They're like,
Like,
dude.
ugh.
So yeah, he was arrested in July. He was released on a $3,000 bail.
Oh, you gotta be freaking kidding me.
For his legal team, Epstein hired, among others, now I'm gonna name drop here, Alan Dershowitz, Ken Starr, and Steven Pinker. That
I think,
Canadian like optimism guy.
yeah. If you were this rich and a pedophile, I don't know if you should get bail,
Hmm.
but if you if you do, I think it should be something like your teeth or something.
Yeah. We'll let
Like
you know.
I want
For
15
your
teeth.
fingernails.
Yeah. No, it can't be something that grows back.
And this is why they don't let us run justice systems.
That's fair. That's fair. I think I would be running it better than some people, but that's fair. I got a bag of teeth under my pillow with Jeffrey Epstein's name on it, and maybe that's not okay either.
Kaylin, are you the tooth fairy?
I've been called that. Well,
Mm, well,
not the tooth
l-
part. Hey, big teeth fairy.
oh my god, thanks. They're natural. They're not veneers. In a truly baffling move, Palm Beach County prosecutor Barry Krischer convened a grand jury on the Epstein case, which meant that there would be no press, and Krischer only presented evidence from 2 victims and only put one on the stand. The victim, who Barry Krischer called as the prosecuting attorney, according to court transcripts, he cross-examined her like he was on Epstein's defense team, asking her humiliating questions about her sexual history and if she ever drank or did drugs and if she was a prostitute. This is a child. This is a child that he's asking, "Are you a prostitute?" There is no such thing as a child sex worker.
Yeah.
There is a victim of sex trafficking. That is a rape victim.
Yeah.
Period. The grand jury returned one charge of solicitation of a prostitute, to which Epstein pled not guilty. Alexander Acosta, then U.S. Attorney for the Southern District of Florida and future Labor Secretary in the Trump administration, offered Epstein a cushy plea deal, which granted him immunity from all federal charges.
What?
Yes. Epstein's victims were not informed of this plea deal in violation of their federal rights under the Crime Victims Act of 2004. Epstein agreed to the plea deal and pled guilty on 2 prostitution charges. He was sentenced to 18 months in prison and ordered to register as a sex offender and pay restitution to his victims. He served 13 months, was not required to inform any of his neighbors that he was a registered sex offender, and did not pay restitution to his victims. And he was housed in a private wing of the Palm Beach County Stockade in lieu of state prison, where he was afforded 12 hours of work release every day. It's not even prison. This means he spent every single day in his home, in his home office, where he was allowed a continued stream of underage female visitors. And he did. He spent 12 hours a day of his prison sentence for soliciting prostitution, but for raping kids. He spent 12 hours a day raping kids.
Are all these like the prosecutor and all them? They still alive?
They sure are.
Mm, okay.
While on probation following his release, he was allowed to regularly take his private jet to Manhattan and the US Virgin Islands. So the Epstein case is really also one of the sickest examples of how perverted our legal system is and how I'm a cab until I die. And this is one of the most poignant examples of policing being bastardry as a systemic instead of individual issue, because there is one of the good apples in this story. One of the heroes was actually the Palm Beach chief of police, Michael Ryder. He took charge of the investigation. He was a firm victims advocate. He was very loudly critical of Krischer and Acosta and rallied against them for giving Epstein this sweetheart deal. In interviews, he still gets choked up 20 years later talking about his victims and the injustice. And he was by
How
every
could you
measure
not?
yeah, he is by
After
every
interviewing
measure the
them,
good
meeting
cop.
them, speaking to them, like,
These were kids that were his daughter's ages,
mhm.
and he was utterly powerless to do anything to actually get these women any kind of justice. And he ultimately ended up resigning in 2009 as a direct result of this.
Well, they do say the only good cops are gone. They
Yeah.
they left.
And that's it.
I don't know
Like,
who
that's
"they"
why
is, but
I do still to this day get told by people like, well, if you just, if more good people joined police departments, they would be good. But it's just like our entire legal system is set
yeah.
up to we have two different legal systems. We have the legal system for rich people and the legal system for everyone else. It is not set up to get anything near justice. It is set up to protect the interests of capital, and police are just like the base of that pyramid.
Mhm.
And with that, let's take another break. It'd be really funny if we got like ads for like
Police
police department
Academy.
recruitments.
Let's get ads for those, class trader canine drug dogs. Those little narc puppies
Mm. Let's get ads for those like robo dogs, those scary dogs.
that have, like, missile launchers in their back.
Yeah.
Their, like, tail curves over and shoots out
You're
of it.
like after his sweetheart deal and bullshit prison sentence, Epstein lays low for a while and people just kind of forget to look into this guy. But then in 2017, two things happen. The New York Times and Ronan Farrell break the story on Harvey Weinstein, kicking off the Me Too movement. And Donald Trump nominates Alexander Acosta to be his Secretary of Labor. Julie K. Brown, a reporter for the Miami Herald who had been following the Epstein case in Florida 10 years earlier, latches onto this and starts her own investigation that was honestly maybe even more thorough than the Palm Beach Police Department's. She says that the journalists at the Herald identify somewhere around 80 victims, and she does a really in-depth search into Krischer and Acosta and the politicians who essentially made themselves accomplices to Epstein by getting him off so easily. And she publishes her story in the Herald under the title Perversion of Justice. And she eventually ended up reworking that into a full book titled Perversion of Justice: The Jeffrey Epstein Story. If anybody wants to read it, it's really great. It's one of my sources for this episode, but just be forewarned that it's got pretty graphic descriptions of not just grooming
Mhm.
and child sex abuse, but also like pretty violent sexual battery, because it's a work of actual journalism and not, like the slurs and sluts story hour that we've got going on here. Like,
Oh, that's beautiful. Slurs and sluts?
slurs and sluts. I do think, like,
Okay,
I think it is
merch.
important. Oh my God, so true. Like a cute little slutty drag queen.
Yeah. Ugh.
Ugh. I do think it is important to have, like, very graphic descriptions documented. I just
Yes.
don't think that our stupid comedy podcast is an
No, no,
appropriate
that's not the place.
vessel
We
for
don't need
that.
that.
Yeah. So be forewarned going into it, reading it, that it gets very heavy, but I think it's a very important work. I think Julie K. Brown fucking rocks.
And the victims or survivors, depending on how they identify themselves, I'm sure various
Hmm.
among them deserve to have their actual stories told.
Exactly.
Uh, yeah.
Yeah. So, because Julie K. Brown goes in so hard on Acosta, this is why, sort of around 2017 to 2019, Epstein becomes big news again, because people look into his other political and celebrity connections, and people look
Mhm.
into the flight logs from the Lolita Express. And because this is the first Trump administration, people really latch on to using Epstein as a vessel for dunking on their preferred political party. So I'm not saying that the way that the public treated that information was like particularly responsible, but like that's why he becomes kind of viral around this period.
Yeah.
On July 6th, 2019, the FBI NYPD Crimes Against Children Task Force essentially ambushes him after his private plane landed at Teterboro Airport in New Jersey. And at the same time, there's a raid of his Manhattan mansion where they find just an absolute boatload of child sex abuse material,
I was about
and
to say,
also,
yeah.
yeah, just like so many pictures. I don't know where the man found the time. Like he he was abusing kids like it was a full-time job. And there was also evidence of trafficking, like diary entries, like indicating or implying that underage girls were being trafficked or
Yeah.
sent at certain times. Some of his diaries are like, oh, there's a phone message from Kay. She can't come because she has soccer practice.
Oh, go to hell.
He's housed in the Metropolitan Correctional Center in New York City, which is the opposite of the place he was incarcerated a decade prior. The MCC is notoriously underfunded. It's infested with rats. At the time he was housed there, it was so understaffed that prison guards were working double shifts.
So I'm against prisons,
Hmm.
and I'm against those conditions in prisons.
Hmm.
But like, if we had like one little cell just for
Right.
him that was filled with rats and overworked
Yeah.
guards, I'm not protesting outside of it.
I'm not going to cry a single tear for him. The MCC is absolutely medieval and should not be allowed to continue to operate that
Shut
way.
that down.
But
Throw
I'm also,
him in
yeah.
a throw him in a pit in the ground.
He was kept in a room with a cellmate that was smaller than the bathroom on his private aircraft for 23 hours a day, and he was only permitted to shower once every 3 days.
Sorry, I was like, I hope his roommate was smaller than a bathroom.
No. He had to share a room smaller
I
than the
understood
bathroom.
it
Yeah.
after. It took me a second.
Yeah, and he was only allowed to shower every 3 days, which is nasty.
Yeah,
I bet he smelled. I bet he looks like the kinda guy that, like, just always had a bit of a smell on him, you
he
know?
looks like
You
he
know those
smells
guys? Yeah,
old.
even yeah, like old. Like, even when he
Yeah,
showers, like, there's just, like, a little
yeah.
must on him, and I bet that gets real funky after 48
He's never washed
hours.
his legs. I can tell you that right the hell now.
Mm. I bet he's never washed his reportedly egg-shaped penis.
I don't even know what that means, and I'm gonna keep on going.
I'm gonna keep on keeping on. Yeah, that was one of the
Gonna head on
details that
right
was
past that one.
that was one of the details that was, like, very consistent between all the girls' stories, which is, like, one of the reasons the police were like, "I think they're telling the truth because they all keep talking about this guy's egg-shaped penis."
Nope, has nothing to do with me. You will
Prosecutors with
not
the Sou
ruin penis for me. That's what I'm telling you right the hell now.
Really the worst thing Jeffrey Epstein has done is ruined Dick. Ruined Dick for a whole generation of Dick lovers. Prosecutors with the Southern District of New York charged him with sex trafficking of more than a dozen teenage girls, and Judge Kenneth Mara in the Southern District of Florida started looking into whether the non prosecution agreement from that first arrest could be overturned. After Epstein's death, an additional investigation would be opened in Paris, France, that I believe is still ongoing to see just how many victims there are there and if there are any accomplices that might be
Right.
able to be apprehended.
Because like him being dead doesn't really
Yeah,
stop the investigation because there's still
totally.
victims who deserve some sort of help
Mhm.
compensation, but also he was involving other people
Other people.
in
Yeah.
this. So
Although
they
I
can't just be
believe
like, well, he's dead, case closed.
the US one after he died, they decided to close the case because they were like, it's done, which is anyway, we're not there yet. Epstein
But
requested to
I
be
want to be
released.
there yet.
Are we
I'm
there
like,
yet?
die, die, die. Are we there yet?
Are we
I was
there yet?
like,
No
standing
kids.
by his empty grave.
No kids, just a few more pages. Epstein requested to be released on bond, offering $100 million
But
dollars for his bail, and he was determined to be a flight risk and denied.
yeah, um, not even a flight risk. He has a plane.
Yeah, he's getting on that plane.
Yeah, that's
They
that's like
arrested
a
him
flight
from the plane.
guarantee. He, like owns an island and has a plane. Like,
Yeah. Ghislaine Maxwell at this point has completely gone into hiding. Like she's actually just like fully disappeared and she won't end up getting arrested until July of 2020, a full year later.
she's in that
Like
little. Osama bin Laden hole.
In the
That
hole. Yeah, just laying.
they're like looking over at each other, talking. Oh wait, he's been caught and killed by now, right? What year are we?
Yeah.
2019. Oh yeah,
2019. Yeah.
yeah. Thanks, Obama.
On July 23rd, 2019, 17 days after being arrested, at 1:30 a.m., Jeffrey Epstein is found on the floor of his cell with injuries to his neck after a presumed suicide attempt.
Mm.
His cellmate is removed from his cell and Jeffrey is placed on suicide watch. As part of his suicide watch, a guard is supposed to check on him every 30 minutes. But because the MCC is so underfunded and guards are all doing doubles, the two guards who are meant to be watching him on the evening of August 9th end up falling asleep.
Okay, I would like to say, if you're trying to stop someone from dying by suicide, I think giving them like
A 30-minute head start?
a 30-minute head start, but then also that means like every 30 minutes you check on them. So it's like, I don't know, like 24 minutes of the day that you're paying any attention to them.
Yeah.
Like like because how long does it take to check on to
Like a
walk by somebody and be
second.
like,
Just be like, "Are you dead?
Yeah, dead
Are
yet?
you okay?"
No.
Yeah, no, he was basically alone all the time and was just
Yeah,
supposed to have somebody check every 30 minutes. But the guards fell asleep because at this point they'd been working for like 17 hours or
they were
something.
sleepy.
Yeah, I'd be sleepy too. I don't like working for more than 2 hours.
Hmm. I start to burn out so quick.
That's why I'm a podcaster. At 6:30 a.m. on August 10th, Epstein is discovered dead in his cell of an apparent suicide. Not everyone agrees that it was a suicide, but we are not going to discuss the conspiracy theories surrounding Jeffrey Epstein's death in this episode. We're actually going to save that for the morgue. We're putting all the conspiracy shit behind a paywall. If you would like to hear about the conspiracies surrounding Jeffrey Epstein and his death, and also a little bit about the bizarre Prince Andrew interview, head on over to patreon.com/respectthedead or become a channel member on YouTube. All patrons and channel members get access to our episode autopsies in the morgue, which are like cute little debriefs of each
Hmm.
full episode, and where we sometimes put extra material that we don't want to put in the main episode, like copyrighted clips, interesting anecdotes that we couldn't work into our scripts, or wildly speculating about conspiracies.
You can't get sued if it's behind a paywall. That's what
It's
Roy
so
Corn taught
true.
me.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's what our lawyers always said.
And it's like our place to unwind. We just like go
Yeah.
in, I take off my bald cap, Hoots takes off her wig, and we just relax.
Yeah. And we relax and accuse celebrities of pedophilia.
It would be actually very funny if you were completely bald and I actually had
And you
your
had
hair
hair.
underneath this
We
bald
did a
cap.
little swap. We're going to make that podcast lore now. 2 days before Epstein's death, he signed a new will and testament that transferred his entire $577 million fortune into a newly created trust filed in the U.S. Virgin Islands. The identities of the beneficiaries of that trust are hidden, and the legal process for revealing their identities and then demanding compensation from them for his victims could take years and be incredibly costly. So this was essentially his final fuck you to his victims. He knew he was going to kill himself, so he hid his cash and he did it.
And how old was he?
Oh, good question. He was
Because, like, honestly, at
66.
60, I'd be ready to go.
66.
So 66?
Oh, he lived a nice long life. I say, my mom is 70. He's 66 when he died.
Ugh.
He never expressed remorse for his crimes, for the abuse and turmoil he put his victims through. These are women who have suffered for decades thanks to what he did to them as children. Many of them have suffered extreme mental health consequences, addiction, eating disorders. Given the magnitude of his crimes, I think it's probably also very likely that there were a number of overdoses and suicides that we will just sadly never know about. We will likely never actually know the true number of his victims, which is probably somewhere in the hundreds, possibly even in the thousands. And those brave few that did come forward will never get to face him in court because he robbed them of even that. And to his accomplices and associates, this message is for you. Running a stupid comedy history podcast is not activism. It isn't heroics. It isn't anything close to what could be considered getting some kind of justice for these women. But know this: when you die, and you will die, hopefully alone and in pain, we will laugh and mock and vilify. You will be gone, but the sound of our cackles will reverberate through the ether forever. You pathetic fucking joke. You can follow Respect the Dead on Twitter and Instagram at _Respect the Dead. And you can follow us on Blue Sky at Respect the Dead. I'm Hoots. You can follow me on Twitter at Punish Hoots. And you can follow me on Blue Sky at Hoots.
I'm Kaylin. You can follow me on Blue Sky at Kaylin, and on everything else, every other platform that's ever been created, at Kaylin Conrad.
If you want to suggest someone else for us to cover, you can do that over on our Patreon. You get access to our suggestion cemetery, where you can submit a name as well as a key to the morgue, where we debrief after every episode in our autopsy report minisodes. And if you're watching on YouTube, where we have full video for all episodes, don't forget to hit subscribe and turn on that bell so you get notified every week when there's a new episode. If you're on a podcast app, give us a sweet little 5-star review. Thanks to Davi Armanino for editing this episode. You can check out more of their work at daviarmanino.com. And you should, because they're amazing.
Are we going to say
Thanks.
goodbye to them?
Bye.
Okay, bye.
Bye.